Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Hi, folks. Cesar here with a virtual Zoom of our Inside Scoop show. Appreciate you joining tonight. It's being recorded on Sunday evening, June 28th. Thanks for sitting through this. Thanks for getting with us. I know it's been a tough kind of couple of months. We're starting these shows back up again. Hopefully we've got some content for you very interested in. Tonight, I have a very special guest. It's going to be about campaign season this go round. We've got some exciting campaigns coming up this summer, this fall. My first guest is Sean Regan. He's one of the brave individuals that's decided to get into the ring of politics. He's been a little bit involved here in the town of Herndon on the Planning Commission. He's been a lifelong contributor to his community. He's been in Herndon for many years. I wanted to give him the platform to be able to introduce himself, and we're going to talk about some of the things that are challenging our area, the region, and basically get to know him a little bit. So Sean, sir, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Cesar. I really appreciate the time. And my only regret is that we couldn't be in person talking face to face, especially when you're discussing, complicated issues that are sometimes difficult issues. It's always much better to be in the same room with somebody. So I can only promise that when we figure out a vaccine to this whole thing, I look forward to having this conversation with you one-on-one.
Yeah, I agree. I think this whole COVID environment has caused us to do things differently and witness the results. We'd be in a studio and we'd be face-to-face, but it's not so bad here as well. So we can still talk about the issues, some of your initiatives. And I always got to ask people, because I like to get their sort of view on what compelled you to jump into the ring here, political office. It's not an easy thing. It's not a very sort of like high paying thing, right? So what compelled you to put your hat in the ring there?
Oh, well, sure. And I guess I have to say that it has been a decision that I've come to over time. My wife, Ann, and I moved to Herndon 22 years ago. And at that time, we were starting a family. I was starting a business, and I didn't have enough hours in the day for all the things I absolutely had to do, much less, some of the things that I wanted to do. But somehow many of those, all those years have passed, and my kids are older, my business is stable, and I've had time to think, what's next? What is the next chapter, the next thing that I want to do? And it came on slowly. I've been on the Planning Commission for 8 years now, and that seemed like a good step towards town involvement. Although I had done some smaller things even prior to that. And one of the things I love about Herndon is that at 23,000 people, it is a big enough place that it is complicated and takes real work to manage, and that better than I do. But it's a small enough place that if you want to contribute, you can. And there's just sometimes a matter of showing up and putting your shoulder to the wheel and doing the hard work. And so it felt to me to be a scale, and it was close to home, that I felt that I could really contribute. I've always felt that the world is a big, complicated place, and we are now hearing about things on the other side of the world, and we're more connected to the other side of the world more than ever. And I think sometimes that encourages us to forget about what's here and what's close. Your next door neighbor, the people across the street, 3 streets away, in the community where you really spend your time and where you really build quality of life and relationships. So the fact that, I can walk across Herndon in probably 40 minutes and get to any of my neighbors, that quickly is really important to me. And it's important to really try to contribute and make things better for those people before I maybe would try to change something that's happening on the other side of the world.
No, sure. That's look, it all starts at home, right? It's your community, right? So I can totally appreciate that. In terms of, you mentioned the ability to walk the town, right? Walk to any neighbor, just about. A lot of that took planning, right? I mean, so your time on planning, talk to me in terms of some of the lows and highs, because 8 years is a long time, right? So, kind of what did you learn there? What did you observe there?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing I learned is that when I was a kid, I had it really, really good. I grew up in Columbia, Maryland in the 1970s, and Columbia was one of the first and one of the largest planned communities. And when James Rouse planned it all at once, he and his people were able to design bike paths that could get kids from their home to their elementary school to a shopping center without ever crossing a major street. And I grew up thinking that that's the way everywhere is. And as an adult, I learned that that certainly wasn't the case. And there are some places around Herndon that we still see today where there's a bike path that a developer built with their development that connects to nothing. And sometime that adjacent property might develop and that path might be finished. But right now, it's not doing the good work that it really could be doing. And that was very frustrating early on. But I see the work that the PBOC, the Pedestrian Bicycle Committee, has done, and the tremendous amount of time those individuals spend really working to make the town accessible to everyone. And it's so valuable. And we're making real improvements. Not just to connect the existing town to the new metro station and get people there quickly and safely, but also to get people around town that might not have a car. Maybe they have disabilities, maybe they don't want to have a car, maybe they can't afford a car. And it's really encouraging to me that Herndon is a place that you can live without owning an automobile and still be a completely active and member of our community. So one of the things that has, gotten a rise out of me on Planning Commission is when I see developments being built that aren't connected to other places. Yeah. And I understand why some of these parcels have to be developed as cul-de-sacs, but I'm always thinking, maybe we should have a bike path that goes out the backside of that cul-de-sac to connect it, to make it easier, not just for the people that live there, but frankly for others in our town to cross through and get to where they're going as well. And I like the way the PBOC is thinking in those terms, that to make our town accessible for everyone to pass through. So.
Yeah, I think the shift in sort of like the demographics and certainly the different segments that are buying homes or condos or townhouses, I think it's more towards walkable, accessible. So that's a huge value. And if it's planned, great. If it's accident, great. But I think you're touching on it. That's like the unique thing about Herndon, right? It's somewhere where anyone can, easily walk to the things they need to, or bike to the major things, or get to metro soon here. And that's going to kind of change, a lot of the folks that are coming in or moving in. I think that's going to be a huge option for us to leverage going forward.
I'd originally thought about that idea in terms of, the younger adults and millennials coming up that don't want to own a car. But the more I realize that it's all aspects of our society that don't drive for a whole variety of reasons. It's not just because they don't want to bother. It's that they might not be able to afford a car. Or they might have a disability that precludes that. And they could have tremendous things to contribute if they can get around. And we're good now. And it's going to get better, certainly. It's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, just think about, again, speaking of that demographic, like when we grew up, we could not wait to get our driver's license or learner's permit, right? But now, I mean, my younger, cousins and nephews, transportation is a service to them.
Sure.
Right, so having a car or that sort of independent, it's like no big deal. So I'll just Uber or Lyft somewhere or get there somehow. I don't need a vehicle. And I think that's something that's going to be different, especially now with COVID. It's going to impact not only how people get around, but how business operate, and just how we interact in general, witness the result. We no longer have to actually go. I would prefer to go to a coffee shop or have a beer with you and to talk, right? But now it's like digital and everything's, Zoomed and these video conferencing. So,
Sure.
but yeah, getting back to the demographic shifts, Herndon, when you moved here, looked differently than it does today, right? Herndon's a minority immigrant community now. So there's a lot of people in here that are just coming into the town to kind of make it their own, make it their unique sort of home. So I'm sure you've seen sort of the shift in that entire demographics as well.
Yeah, I certainly have. Although I think, anybody who's been in the Washington, D.C. area since probably even the 80s saw Central American migration and, folks coming in and getting jobs and building their own businesses and raising their families. And it has spread out into the suburbs, but it clearly is a defining characteristic of Herndon now. I remember it must have been when I just started on Planning Commission. I was on a task force that it led to the branding, the Herndon It's On slogan that eventually grew out of it, and the development of an economic development director, and the stone monuments that you see down at the entrances to town. But I remember hearing about the town demographics and being really surprised and pleased to hear that I think at that time, Herndon had one of the highest percentages of college-educated Hispanics in the country, right? So it was at a time when people were arguing about day laborers and that sort of thing. And what you were hearing was, if anything, was about uneducated immigrants. And come to find that there were tremendous numbers of highly educated immigrants, not to mention everyone else who is, having jobs and raising families. But you weren't hearing that at the time. And I thought at the time it was something to really celebrate and encourage. And I think you're seeing more of that now.
Yeah, I think just looking back, even the 8 to 10 years, the town, I think for me, is become more welcoming, less, I don't know if afraid's the right word, but it's certainly, and tolerant isn't the right word. I just think welcoming and open to the different, at least that's my view. There's certainly going to be pockets everywhere, but just looking back over the 10 years, I think that's not really an issue. At least you don't hear about it as much, right?
No, I think you're right, and that is wonderful news. But that issue is really one of the main reasons that Ann and I got involved in town politics. That we were seeing things that were not right. It wasn't a left or right issue. It wasn't a shades of gray issue. It was wrong, and we felt moved to get involved locally. And I'm glad those days are long behind us. Now we've still got a long way to go, certainly, but we've made major strides since then.
So talk to the folks about some of the sort of top initiatives that you'd like to champion, or things that maybe you'd like to team up with. What are some of like, if you could wave a magic wand, right, let's assume there's budget, let's assume there's the resources, right? So what are some of the things you'd like to see tackled first?
Yeah, well, that's a pretty powerful magic wand there. So
I said imagine, right? Imagine.
Yeah. Well, obviously some of my priorities come from my time on the Planning Commission. I do real estate development work for a living. I help nonprofits like museums and schools build their buildings, and I often come at things from a land use perspective. And it's probably why I was asked to be on the Planning Commission, because zoning is one of the 4 or 5 things that the town actually controls, right, under the Dillon Rule and what we're allowed to do. So right off the bat, I would say that I'm encouraged to see the development happening downtown. That it looks like the Comstock work is getting started, and believe it or not, before we know it, that'll be finished, and that's going to be an exciting change. I think we need to start thinking about and actively encouraging the next stages of development down there on some of the other major parcels or some of the things that we want to see happen afterwards, because things take a long time to plan, and we should be thinking about what we want the town down there to look like in 3 years and in 5 years. Similarly, we should continue our really good work at the metro area. I would love to see a major university, a branch of an out-of-state university, become a real anchor to the development there, or a major cultural institution that would bring people to that area that would not otherwise come. Early on, I'd thought that our golden ticket at the metro would be a government agency, a major GSA lease. But I tell you, the way leasing is going right now, I'm not so sure that how many of those things are going to be happening anymore, or to what scale. But in the Northern Virginia sprawl, where everything looks a lot alike, Herndon is its own entity. It is unique and it is special, and we need to convey that at the metro area and make that a destination where people can come and get something that they can't get anywhere else. And that's when I talk, a branch of the Guggenheim, right? Something like that is just like nothing else in the region. So I think about the metro area as well. Can I offer one more though, Cesar?
Sure.
So about 3 days ago, we got an email from the superintendent of Fairfax Public Schools. And many people got this email, and it proposed the manner in which schools would reopen. And there are a couple of alternatives, and I won't go into all of that. But what dawned on me is that that as parents are going back to work, and students are sometimes going back to school and sometimes not, that there's going to be a really major gap in our daycare. And when I first came on the planning commission, I couldn't believe how many home daycare cases that we heard, and that you were probably on council at that time, and they came up to you. And it was remarkable. Is it 5 kids? Is it 8 kids? Is it 12 kids? But until we are past COVID-19, I'm guessing that we may have to get very creative about emergency measures to allow for much broader daycares, whether they're at commercial facilities type things, but home daycares as well. I think there are an awful lot of parents sitting around right now thinking, I don't know where my child's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays next year. And it's not just kids who are 6 and under or 5 and under, right? 7, 8, 9-year-old kids who would normally be at Herndon Elementary, Hutchinson Elementary. All of a sudden, they're going to have time in the middle of the day, and I'm not so sure those parents want those kids staying at home.
Yeah, I tell you, this is really, transformed is not the right word. It's really disrupted and forced us to rethink how education is going to be delivered, how meals, and I mean, a lot of families count on the school system for daycare, for meals. I read somewhere where 25%, I think, of some of these kids were actually like lost during the transition in terms of not coming back to the assignment or internet access.
That may be the percentage that didn't even log on once during that time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it was a shocking number, sure.
Yeah, I mean, but if you don't have the facilities at home, right? I mean, I think there was an assumption that everyone sort of had a level playing field, and these new processes could be put in place, but it just wasn't the case. And again, I don't know the exact number. I recall it being 20 something, and whether it's 20 or 25%, that's a lot of kids in the county who have been left out of the sort of augmented new way that they're going to communicate this stuff. And that's, to your point, it's going to take a lot of creativity. It's going to take some budget. It's going to take some real thought leadership to try to address these things, because the businesses aren't all going to make it. So what's going to go in those facilities? There'll be care facilities. How do we safely grant the authorization to operate within the town? Is it 5 kids? Is it but you're good. You're thinking about some of the challenges that are going to be happening out there.
Yeah, and I made the formal decision to run for council, sort of December, January timeframe. And I'll tell you, when I got all my signatures and filed my paperwork, I wasn't thinking about that, right? That was not the land use issue that I thought was going to be maybe the most critical one that we solve right now. Yeah. And yet here we are, coming up on a school year.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, but I think, I've always said to people, everyone should run for any office. I think, have a foundation, put your time in at a board or some commission or some committee and run. Because going forward, fresh minds bring new ideas. So it's going to take a lot of different views to bring ideas that are going to be able to solve some of these big issues. Like, how do you maintain your budgets when revenues are cut 20, 30%? How do you maintain that, right? So you just can't keep cutting your way out of, you got to find creative ways to raise revenues or bring in new revenues, right?
There's been a general philosophy in local government that it's a good thing to have a 50-50 balance of residential and commercial property taxes for jurisdictions that highly rely on property taxes.
Yeah.
And that might not be the case anymore. It really might not. And for a town like Herndon, which is not, that doesn't provide all local services, right? Specifically, we don't provide schools, which are a huge chunk of local budgets. It might not be exactly right for us because of that as well. I don't know what the right number is, but if you think, hey, wait, it should be 60-40 one way or another, realize how long it takes to migrate your economy towards a different percentage. That takes some thinking.
I think you're right on. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, my day job, we went to completely lights out, getting out of the lease. All the HQ people, they're all remote. So I can see that, happening with businesses here as well. So what do we do when there's a glut or just a bunch of leases? Either they're not renewed, or worse, they've been walked away from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and if your revenues are 50-50 or 60-40, that's a huge chunk. So what do we do now, right? And that, I think it's not unique to Herndon, right? It's every municipality, every county is going to be grappling with this, right? We haven't felt the full cost of this, or we haven't absorbed it yet. And I think you're going to have some creative minds going forward. So,
earlier when we were talking about zoning, I was thinking about parking, right? When we're talking about automobiles being a service that you use, right? Well, if people are owning fewer cars, that changes parking. And I was going to say, well, that could be a big change here. But what you just described could really change parking, right? If there just aren't these people driving to offices along the toll road in the same kind of numbers, but we've got parking garages and things. It's very difficult to predict. It's not easy work.
Yeah, and again, I think I think everyone brings their unique capabilities, their strengths. I think your strengths are obviously you've had to deal with things in planning. How do you plan for development, budget, support these things in a transitional period, right? Because you really don't know. We have some data that we can go back and plot and possibly project, but what type of development will be needed over the next 5, 10, 20 years, right? We've got a plan out there, but is that plan relevant anymore, right?
Sure. And Right. All of our data is inherently backwards looking, right? It's happened over the last 5 years and 20 years. And I remember when I started learning about parking, you realize that some of the parking levels that were set, requirements that were set, were based on a couple of engineering studies like from the 50s. And they became codified and everybody kept using them. And
Right.
It sort of, it was just based on very old data that didn't apply anymore.
I think the fact that you deal with data is going to be a great thing. I think if people are afraid of data, this is probably not a good time for them to get into public office where you got to allocate budgets.
Well, you know, one thing that I thought the town did exceptionally well, and this was probably 3 years ago now. Gosh, I wish I could remember the consultant. But community development and the mayor arranged for an economic forecasting type consultant to come in and talk to the planning commission. I can't remember if the town council was there, but she really talked about trends in the way people work. And this is 3 years ago, right? It's a little bit outdated, but really helped me anyway understand what spaces we had that seemed like they were good in the long run and which aren't. Because as you said earlier, we've got to solve this problem, but we're not the only ones solving this problem. And the more we can identify best practices somewhere else and then adopt them to our situation, the better off we're going to be. Because there's, I mean, you know, somebody's figuring this stuff out, and let's go steal that idea, right? Because we're never going to figure it out all on our own.
Well, Sean, I think we're running out of time here, and I'll just again thank you for giving us the time. I think you're going to do great. Good luck to you. What's the one thing you want people to know about you as we close out our session here?
Well, I guess I hope you've touched on it a little. Maybe we've touched on it a little bit. I love working in this town. I love living in this town. I think it's a special place. The way it welcomed me and my family years ago is the way I want to work to have it welcome everybody from all across the country and all over the world to come and be a part of it. And I think it's an exciting place, and I would love to be an ambassador for the town and telling people about how great it is. I also understand that on the town council, a lot of this is doing the hard work. I'm sure it's not always glamorous, and you have to put your shoulder to the wheel and do it. And I'm excited about doing that. And I have the time in my life to do it.
Well, we certainly, Sean, certainly appreciate that. Again, I can't wait to do this in person. Thank you so much for your time. And again, lots of luck to you. We'll be chatting soon.
Guess what? I have some news for you. There's free food right there, junk food. You see that truck? Oh, jeez. It's a 2 Michelin star chef, all for free, ladies and gentlemen, all for free.
Here we have a panzanella with summer vegetables and pesto. Enjoy. How we doing?
Fantastic. So what do you got going on underneath that plate there?
This food is really about to be thrown away.
Yeah.
Bro? Is there something wrong with this food? Where did you get it from?
From farmers markets. They put aside the ugly vegetables and the ugly fruits.
Carrot top, soft avocados. It was all food that was going to be discarded.
Even the drink you had is made from like a little bruised peach. Did it taste a little bruised?
Great. It's good.
The average person throws away 24 pounds of food a month.
That's a lot.
Isn't that a lot? Go visit savethefood.com for more information. Thank you. Junk food time!
Connor is struggling in school.
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. This is what it feels like for kids with learning and attention issues. Redirecting to understood.org.
What are you looking for?
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi, everyone. Cesar here. Thanks for coming back. I have another guest this evening. I really want you to meet this individual. Saeed Iftikhar is a gentleman here in the town of Herndon, and he's running for the town council. I wanted you to introduce to you because he's got a great background. I personally love his story, how he came to this country, how he's contributed to his community from a little boy, even to the man he is today. He's always been about contributing, giving back, inclusion. And I think this is one of the things that attracted me to him. So I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to meet him. And we'll be going through some questions here, but he is running for council. And just wanted, again, open it up. We're going to have a nice discussion here, and hopefully you'll get to know him a little better. Saeed, sir, welcome to the program. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Doing great. Listen,
Great.
I really wanted to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the folks. And just briefly, start just a little bit how you came to this country. I mean, you live in Herndon now, but just if you can tell us briefly, you shared a beautiful story with me. I wanted to have the folks hear that just quickly.
Yeah, I come in America 1991, March 10, and the day I landed in California. And when I was there, I was in basically getting education, taking care, and I was there like 2.5 years, 3 years. I did IT, which is new thing for me. That time is not that big. Popular item that time in Silicon Valley. I live close to San Francisco. They call Bay Area, Suisun cities, close to Benicia and Vallejo. So I studied there. I work in the base as a part-time FS. You maybe heard about the commissary store. And I used to work there part-time and go to school same time. But during that time, I have a chance to go back visit Pakistan. And I stayed back home like 6 months. Then I come here in Virginia in 1993 with my cousin. He worked with the federal government, POD. He let me stay 5 days. Then I stay in Herndon, Reston area. I would start working in a Hackinger. And Hackinger, when I start working, I met one of my friend, Richard Sharkey. He still worked with the town of Herndon. That time he worked in the evening part-time with us. So he asked me, what you doing, what's going on? So he's very interested to help me that time. So he told me, I work in town of Herndon. They always have a job opportunity if you want to apply with the refugee, refuse, like picking up a trash job in the morning and in the afternoon, you cannot be done. You can go to college and get done your education. I said, okay, why not you give me the application? So that's the way my journey started. He brought up the application. I put my qualification, what I did in California in electronic IT background. Then I didn't heard anything for 6 months from town of Herndon. And one day the Richard Sharkey told me, hey, your application be looked at by our engineer. That time we have a guy named Dave Kakanda. He's our civil engineer in town of Herndon. He interested to hire you in the I&I department. I have no clue what is the I&I. He said, what is I&I? He said, inflow infiltration about the water and sewer. He think you have a technician kind of position. He maybe call you for an interview. So, okay. So I went for the interview. I don't know anybody except Rich Sharkey or a few other people. I'm brand new in Virginia, but the thing more make me interested in Virginia, especially Herndon and Reston area, the weather we have, for weather, fall, winter, summer, snow, we see everything around here. When I come to California, there's whole year is one weather. You don't need to worry about anything. So for me, it's like if going back home, kind of, we have everything what I need. I'm really excited. So what happened, I got an interview and they offered me job as a utility maintenance operator technician too. So I started working 1995 with the town of Herndon. And since I learned so many things about this town, inside out, about the government. And while I'm working, one day I got a call from back home from my brother. I think I've been on the job like more than a year or 2 years. He said, your dad is really sick. Actually, he's in coma. You need to come by see him before he passed away. So I got very surprised news. I called my supervisor. We have at that time Dale Kidwell. And he said, you have to go check him out, your family first, just go and let us know what's going on. And they don't even question me, how long I'm going, what's the procedure, this size emergency. And they did not question me anything. So that surprised me. I just bought the plane ticket, went back home. I saw my dad in ICU. Luckily, what happened, he come out the coma and recovered. I was there like a week, and I told my dad I want to go back. And I see I can get some kind of thing to medical help in America, so you maybe get better sooner. He said, okay. So I come back. I talked to my supervisor. My supervisor recommended me to go see our town manager. We have Mr. Moore. So I went to see Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore told me to go see the Tamras, who was our town mayor at that time. So we town mayor secretary actually helped me to take to the congressman. The time we have on our this area is a Wolf. So what they did, actually, they helped me to bring my sick dad to get the visa from back home, Pakistan. It takes so easy and fast. I kind of surprised me. I can't even believe what's going on, but it's all true. And at that time, I applied for hospital in Johns Hopkins for my dad's condition, which he has. So they let him to give recommendation letter to send to the American consulate. And luckily, we got everything done in American embassy in Pakistan. When he got the visa, but some reason his health got really bad and he not able to make it, he passed away. So when he passed away, my mom and sister did have a visa to come, and they come stay with me. And somehow my sister told me after 6 months, before the dad passed away, he told me specifically, I don't think it's a good idea you guys to stay. This country is not safe to live for ladies. So it's a good idea just go stay with your brother. So since that day, how much a favor I got for this town and this community, I don't have any other words. And I worked with the town of Herndon 11 years. And while I'm working, I able to go NOVA to take a certified become a driver instructor. In NOVA College, I took the semester classes. Then I got a license to become a driving instructor because the town of Herndon paid my tuition fee. And they pay other fee, whatever I want to sign up, they pay my fee. So I'm full-time employee. I have a lot of benefits. Can't complain about it. Is system working fine, but my health is not that well, so I have to retire early after 11 years. When I retired, I started my own driving school, and I've been running my driving school. Used to be part-time because the government does not pay you that good end of the day. So I had to work part-time in the evening.
That is a great story. I mean, I think what you described is a uniquely American story of immigration. I think that's powerful that you and your family picked up to come here. You were given an opportunity, and you've made the most of it. You started your own business, right? You had a little help along the way, and now
Yes,
you're making the community a little bit safer. So if you can share with us a little bit, I mean, you've got a business background, so I assume that you want to bring to the council. What sort of things from a business perspective that you will help you think with the council?
The thing with the town of council is my passion about this town. The town is amazing, small community, who can do a lot of things as individual personality and people and family and our children, our senior citizens. I don't think any other city or any other metropolitan look at that point of view. So we have a very good network. I want to be served as a part of the network, which I learned to see the positive thing about this community. The one of the thing I want to improve to have a better relationship, the bigger future, what we have to, not maybe in the future people think about it. They think maybe it turn into metro because the train coming and there'll be a lot of condo and apartments, which is a kind of scare a lot of people to leave the town and just run to go away some other places. They have a lot of concern. I've been living this town. I own 2 properties in this town. And I don't see any negative, but the people who leave that place, I don't think they are a better place to living there. Because this culture of the society we have here, it have a very deep root. I want to make sure we maintain that with the help with the Democrat platform and see how things go.
So you've had this business now for a while. You said recently you went after retirement to full time. What sort of exposure, outreach? I know for a fact you have a lot of Latino clients. It seems like a lot of touch points with the town here.
Yes. The 3 things is very important. We work with the local public school, the high school kids. We help them. We see the parents and the family. We work with them. I have personally my 4 kids. They've gone through elementary, middle school, even preschool and community center. And high school, my son is in Nova College right now. He wants to be IT. So we have a lot of good stuff here. At the same time, the government, Department Motor Vehicle, DMV, allow us to give the license, not only teenagers and also adults. So we have one place to stop. If somebody wants to come here with the permit, and after that, we take care of the rest. We have all the requirements we need to anybody to get a license and be better future to look at it. So it's a very rewarding profession.
I see that a lot of your statements, a lot of your printed material, a lot of the things you've done, there's an underlying message, and I love your website, Herndon for All, the number 4 all. It's about inclusion. Where does that come from? Because it seems to be innate with you. It's a very strong sense of what you bring. So where do you think that inclusion for you comes from?
My community, we are love for all, hate for none. This is my community. I'm the Muslim community. We believe every human have equal rights. We believe in interfaith. We believe social justice. We believe in everybody have a chance fair to do the right thing. And if you don't, you have to go door and knock to them and tell them why you're not doing it. So we believe other way around. It's not like government have to do something. You have to become a government by yourself. If you be educated enough, you should be not a naive, because you're paying 32% tax. That's like you putting your life investment in this government. That's your government. Nobody else to tell you how to do. You have to be well educated to see this investment, 32% money going. So that's where we concern come from.
I think it's great. I mean, for me, I grew up in a community that was very diverse. Our neighbors were very diverse. As a child, I had a lot of exposure to diverse cultures. I was just curious if that was also the same for you.
Same thing. I grew up with 4 different ethnic nationality we have around. We see, when I was Pakistan, there's a war going on in Afghanistan, but we have 20 million refugees. There's a war going on in Afghanistan for 20 years. We see a lot of things happen bad after the war. We see the drug problem in our local level. We saw the problem with the weapon. We saw the discrimination. We saw the problem. I mean, there's nothing good about it. You know, when you look at the town, it's peaceful and respectable. Everybody have a fair chance to live. So So this is the best place to be. We practice to keep it like that way because this is reality, and it can't be stay as long real if you work on it. Otherwise, anybody, how the economy going downwards, we don't know what happened after a couple of years when we look at the data, how much money we have to run this town. So we had to figure out how do we consolidate to run this government. So I think I can be very useful to look at that purpose because I work with the government 11, 12 years. I know where we can save money, how we can manage money, how they can promote our local community to help each other without taking more stress. Our service, like a trash picking up, fall cleanup, snow removal, they cost money. But we have to come up with a smart move right now where we don't know what's the future coming after this disaster economy we have because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, right? How do you market the benefits and the value of the town? Because if you ask people why they come to Herndon, you get many different answers. There's no real brand for that. So I'm glad you're mentioning that. What sort of outreach do you envision or outreach to businesses or people? I mean, you seem to know a lot of people. So how do you address bringing dollars and investment into the town?
Okay, we have to look at the location-wise. We are middle of the DC and metropolitan area. This is a very prime spot close to the airport. We have a lot of hotel here. We can promote our traveler to be as a spot like Williamsburg, Jamestown, like we are promote something to the brochure, to the media, to local to come and shop around here. And we bring the new business, the classic business we don't see around somewhere. So we had to come up with something classy, not really more advanced. Advanced does not make you make a lot of money. End up basically spending more money than you making money. So classy is kind of be more simple and more saving money for everybody. So we not end up putting a lot of stress on our resident to putting a tax on it. We can collect a lot of money other way around. So we just have to look at it that way. And there's a lot of small business. They are mostly come and leave very quick. They don't pay any money. But what happened, it also hurt our rental property business. I know town has almost like a 40% building is empty right now. They're not renting. So if they're not renting, they're not paying the town tax. So it's the other way around.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. As a business owner, as a small business owner, what's your perception? Because I hear different things. So as a business owner, how easy is the process within the town to start, maintain, promote, or expand a business? I mean, because I think you would bring a real unique perspective on that in starting your own business.
I think the best thing we can start, we should have a survey. The public, when we going forward, we should put some surveys during the town of Herndon survey voting. So which kind of people they're looking for town of Herndon. So we try to tackle with the majority people what they're talking about, which kind of space. Mostly when I go door to door, which I heard traffic problem, parking problem, they're happy with the town service. Town gives the best service, A+. They never question. If you even look at the survey they did by the town services, they always 99%, 97% above and beyond. And because I live this town and I'm running my driving school, I call the DMV personally to find out how I'm doing the service to my client. They gave me 10 years of my driving record. People I see 6,750. They find out 97% people they never involved in car accident who live here in this area. 97%. Only 3% people have accidents. So that makes me look good what I'm doing for 21 years. So similar, we have to look at everybody to get the credit what they're doing. We're not doing to small business. We're not giving credit to. If we try to keep promoting a corporation like a big corporation, I don't think it go too long. They're not for residential. They're for something else.
Yeah, you bring up another point. I mean, larger companies, larger businesses, I think are going to start to consolidate the workforce, right? So there's not going to be need for office space as much. I think everyone's learned with COVID, you can Zoom
Right.
meet virtually. So to your point,
Right.
the small business community is going to be the backbone of the future, I think. So I think your perspective on that is going to be valuable.
They'd be hurting more right now.
Yeah. How are you faring as a business owner during the times?
Only reason I'm surviving because I got a PPP. You know, they gave me $10,000 to pay my rent. Otherwise, I'm sitting like any other small business out there. There's only thing this is hurting everybody. But small business is they have no savings. They don't have a 6-month plan saving. They don't have a 3-month even plan saving to live on it. So that's terrible.
So you're feeling definitely the pressure of this. What's your business out plan? What's business look like for you 6, 12, 24 months from now then?
Right now, I used to have 11 employees. You know, right now I got only 2 left. I don't have any business to give because the supply and demand, and plus there's no money. You can keep them on paid. So good thing we have unemployment, the people fighting, but I don't know how long they last. That's a very temporary thing, fake, like putting a bandage on the wound. But the real problem is still there.
Well, let's hope you can manage that. I think you have a very unique background and perspective on this. One of the things I looked through some of your documentation that was provided was you volunteered a lot. You volunteered at shelters. You volunteered with the Citizens Police Task Force. What sort of things did you learn there? What was the most meaningful events or experiences with those entities? Because you've done a lot of volunteering, and I want people to know volunteered a lot. So.
Believe it or not, we have a town festival. We had town 4th of July. We didn't have this year. Believe me, this is our backbone. When we do that, we feel like we belong to this town. You know, that this is make me feel like at home. If I go cook in Emery's, there's the 76 people there, help them, it feel like I have a home. They don't, but it's not be like that. If I deserve something, maybe it's not there tomorrow. So it does not make me anything special. They're homeless people. So I feel like we should do back to the society as much we can. And luckily, the town of Herndon, Fairfax County, and my community, which I belong, we are very upfront to go out there and let the people know. We understand the pain, and we can do everything if we stay together as a team. So that's all volunteer work is. It's not a one-man show. There's a lot of people involved.
One of the things let me read to you because it's on your literature. And again, if people want to visit your website or get this literature, it's available. SIDE believes in preserving the essence of Herndon by maintaining and expanding the town's environmental initiatives while attracting the right kind of businesses. Business that align with the inclusionary values embodied by the town in order to build strong financial partnerships within the community. Again, more inclusion. How's that going to happen?
If you look at our few stores, we have like Mom Organic store. The same spot, we got 3 other stores popping up. Which kind of message this town giving to everybody? I mean, they don't care. I mean, you should have to have some loyalty to the people to show, we're standing behind you firmly. We want you to grow your business, to become so big that one day you become a franchise because they got recognized because they start from Herndon. We don't have that kind of spirit and soul. So we can make our business owner feel like a proud to be in Herndon. We don't recognize that. We should have to come up with something. Our small business grow one day and they become franchise all over the USA and anywhere else. We can do that. And we should look at that point of view, how we can help them.
So I get it. We treat all businesses equally in terms of process and so forth.
Yeah.
So I've heard this a little bit in terms of having a sort of small business initiative, kind of like what the government does, right? The government has certain, gates or targets and incentives for helping or nurturing the small business community. So that's unique. I'd be interested in hearing or seeing how we do that.
Not good, man. You got a really good question. One of my certification is small business minority based. You will see that I have a certification. That platform is nothing. Honestly, I've been qualified for 5 years. It maybe work with the federal level, but the state level, even the Fairfax County level, there's no body, there's no soul. There's nothing in it. I don't know how things work. I went there, attend their meeting, try to talk about it. They have nobody clear picture. They feel like they're on the job, and they feel like they know what they're doing, but exactly they have no idea what they're doing. I have no idea. And the people are very loyal to Fairfax County employee to help the small business. They feel like it that way, but I did not see any output. I need to see the result. I did not see it. I'm trying almost like since I've been small business, because I work with the government. I figured that'd be easy way to, leverage my business, but it didn't work like that way. I don't know why. They're two different sort of schools. They never come together.
Well, I appreciate that. It's those federal policies, programs, grants don't necessarily trickle down or transfer down at the local level, which is why I think we need like voices like yours. You may not have all the answers, but you're going to challenge some of the notions and ideas and processes that are currently in place. So I think that's a great thing. In the minute that we have here, Said, what's the one or two things that you want to leave the audience with to know about you?
What to know about me? I'm a family member. I got 4 kids. I have a small business. I think I belong to this town, and town belongs to me. And when I see people around me, it makes me more joyful and happy. And I see the better future. We don't have a drug problem. We don't have a crime problem. We don't have any problem right now, but it's not be like that. We have to be very careful how we can manage ourselves. It's not like we blessed. We have to go out there and keep doing right thing what we're doing. And I just want to be part of the team.
Well, Said, thank you so much for your time. Again, Said Iftikhar, people can reach his website at www.herndon4all.com. Sir, thank you so much for your time.